All right, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at a annotation method called the using subheadings method. And this particular method will allow us to read a text and write down as little as possible, but to try to extract the most important pieces from our reading. Okay, so that we're not only writing down less, we're also thinking about the material more. Okay, and the basic premise for this annotation method is to be able to utilize the various subheadings and headings that all history textbooks are made of. And so we're going to utilize these in order to create sentence summaries or sentence synthesis of all of the ideas that come about so that we exit the reading with the main ideas. Okay, and so the way that this is going to work is we're going to go ahead and take a look at chapter 9, and I'm going to instruct you on how to do each particular part. So we're going to start off on page 333 in our textbook here. And so if you turn to page 333 or in your digital text, we're going to take a look at chapter 9 in post-classical China in examining the Tang state. Okay, you'll notice that each of the major headings are in blue and they are a larger font. And underneath, like we've done before, it happens to be a part that is not only an introduction to the section, but it is also will provide a thesis. Okay, go ahead and read this so that you have some background, but don't write anything down just yet. So go ahead and read this first section that I have highlighted here. So pause the video and go ahead and read it. Okay, you should have come back and read the introduction. Again, we're not doing anything with it just yet, but we are going to move on to the next subheadings. Now, the subheadings can be either in orange in this textbook, like here it says Territorial Expansion under the Tang Dynasty, or it is in black, which is sort of the subheadings within the subheading. So, for example, Confucian administrators in organizing the Tang state. Now, all these titles mean something, and we're going to utilize it in order to make the sentence summary. So let's go back to our first subheading, though, and that is territorial expansion under the Tang Dynasty. That's what we really want to try to figure out in this particular piece. So go ahead, and we're going to do this paragraph by paragraph here because it's a lot to try to synthesize into a single statement. So go ahead and read this particular part, this first paragraph. And what I would suggest is this: as you read, annotate as you normally would here. Okay, and so in this particular box here, start to write down what you think are key notes or key summaries, because you may use it in the end here. But again, these are just sort of ideas that you are generating, that is generated from the reading that you're doing. So again, go ahead and read this particular portion here, and then pause the video and we'll come right back to it. Okay, you should have read this first paragraph here, and what you probably should have come up with are a series of ideas that may or may not be applicable to that first title that you were able to receive here. So the first fact that you probably read is probably about the establishment of the Tang by Li Yuan. Okay, and then from there, how eventually Li Yuan had a very ambitious son who ended up overthrowing or basically forcing him to abdicate the throne. Okay, so you have on one hand the creation of the Tang overthrowing the previous short dynasty, the Sui, and the creation of a strong centralized government. Ooh, this is going to be important here because this is about expansion. And then his son forcing him out of the throne. That may or may not be significant. All right, for our purposes, you're going to go ahead and now read the next two paragraphs because they're actually associated with one another. So go ahead and read the next two paragraphs right here. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video again and then take down any ideas that you may have come up with. Okay. And so with that, from this, you probably would have noted that there is now some sort of expansion by military, by the Tang military to expand the state. Okay, and so one of the things that you should have probably noted from this is the usage of cavalry. In other words, horse soldiers as a means to fight off the nomads and also expand further north past the traditional boundaries of the Han Dynasty. And oftentimes those who are recruited happen to be other pastoral nomadic groups, right? And some of those nomadic groups happen to be ones like, for example, the Uyghurs, these Turkish-speaking peoples who had moved into Western China and became, again, the empire's most potent military force. Okay, so the Uyghurs will become a key critical part here. Pastoral nomads, you could probably add in groups like the Uyghurs, okay, to extend out into the frontiers. Hey, and let's do the last paragraph here. So go ahead and read this particular paragraph. Again, pause the video and then jot down anything that you deem might be important. Okay, so hopefully you're able to find something like the notion of the expansion of the Tang now, going the other direction, okay, moving south now, okay, into the agricultural rich southern part, where again, we talk about rice crops and things like that, using new infrastructure. And what that develops for the Tang is new taxes. And with new taxes comes, again, expansion of the bureaucracy, expansion of being able to pay soldiers and so forth. Now, what we want to generate is a one sentence summary. Okay, but not only that, but a one sentence summary that actually allows us to meet this particular title here, right? Where it says Territorial Expansion under the Tang Dynasty. Okay, so which one's about central expansion and which one isn't? So we see the creation of a strong centralized government, right? That might be useful for our sake here. Definitely. Now, Li Shimin forcing his father out, maybe it's kind of a nice little fact for us, but it might not necessarily be all that important. But what is important for a territorial expansion is a strong cavalry used to fighting nomads, the recruitment of other past nomadic groups to extend the frontiers, and then using new infrastructure to get people to move south as a means to generate tax revenue. So all of this together here, you now want to formulate a sentence summary to come out of this here. And so bringing all that together might sound something like this here. Okay. The new Tang Dynasty reunified China and was able to expand out into the northern frontiers by recruiting pastoral nomads as cavalrymen, and was able to raise new taxes by encouraging farmers to cultivate new lands in the south. Right, so it's bringing up all of these particular points here to create a compound sentence that synthesizes that entire section together, and also it talks about what the subheading says. Territorial expansion under the Tang. So it sort of meets what that requirement is supposed to be. Now, things like, say, for example, the strong groups like, if you want to go ahead and add in important groups like the Uyghurs, for instance, right? You might want to be able to put in to the side here, part of your side notes, and adding into the various comment section, right? And other things in terms of the new Tang Dynasty, you're like, hey, maybe I don't want to leave out, hey, Li Shimin, for instance, right? That seems like an important point to me, but it doesn't apply to the thesis. And at this point, you can go ahead and place it in the comments section. Okay, so in other notes that we looked at before, questions and so forth will go in the sidebar section of your notes. And then from there, we can go ahead and delete now, okay, the sort of the early notes that we have taken, or the ideas. Now, you don't have to take those notes. If you could actually generate these ideas as you read, perfect. Okay, that's less work for you. But if you sort of just need to get down some of the main points in order to get to this final synthesis statement, okay, please do so, but only leave this part right here. And then from there, what you're going to do is to continue to read down. Okay, so the next major heading is organizing the Tang Empire. Do the exact same thing, a one sentence summary for this that you're going to go ahead and place in this box right here. Okay, and in the same way, you get to the subpoints here where, for example, when you have these sort of subpoints within the subheadings, okay, these will relate back to this title here, right? So how Confucian administrators help to organize the Tang Empire. And then from there, generate that one sentence summary. Hey, if you see vocabulary terms, that might be something you want to take down in the sidebar notes. Hey, but either way, do the exact same process until finally we reach the end of the section. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you should be, from these main ideas, be able now to generate a section thesis. So what about the Tang state is important for us in the scope of world history? Okay, what summary of the summaries could you produce here? Create a statement that will summarize all of them together, and then go back to the beginning of the section Okay, and reread this, right? Or excuse me, reread the introduction and then see if there's anything you need to change as a result based on what you've read now in this particular part right here. Okay. Do this for each of the major subsequent sections, okay? And then from there, you have the historical thinking skills reflections, the quick hits at the end to be able to answer if it's applicable. If it's not there, you do not have to do it. But otherwise, this is the using subheadings method. It is one that students have always come back to me and said, this is the one I used when I went to college in order to sort things out. But either way, hope this works out for you and good luck.